Hey, welcome back to Beyond the Manual. Today we are going to be back on the 92 Trans Am and we're going to do some gauge swapping. Again, like I said in the first video, I want to run stock gauges, but I also want certain things like 140 mile an hour speedometer, 8,000 RPM tach, and preferably an 80 PSI oil gauge. So we'll see how all that goes. You keep watching, stay tuned. So I know I mentioned this in the big overview video of the car. Again, we're talking about the 92 Firebird. So I want to run stock gauges, but I want specific gauge faces, if that makes sense. And since I'm running the Holley Terminator, I can manipulate some of these outputs, add a resistor if I need to, etc., to get the right signals I need to drive these. So if we look at the one that came in the car, so this is the stock one, 120 mile speedometer, 6,000 RPM tach, and 60 PSI oil pressure. Pretty common gauge cluster for the 305. And yes, this GTA did come factory ordered with a 305. Every Pontiac Firebird Trans Am GTA in 1992 had to be factory ordered by a specific customer. So dealers couldn't just order some and have them shipped. So whatever customer originally bought this car maybe opted to save a few bucks, save a little miles per gallon, whatever it happens to be, but this was ordered as a stock 305 car. So back to the gauges. This is one that I got from the junkyard locally here. Again, thank you, Gibson's Iron and Metal. Fantastic kind of pick and pull your own parts junkyard here locally in Wisconsin. But I like this one because it has a 140 mile an hour speedometer, an 8,000 RPM tach, but still a 60 PSI oil pressure. And I'm not an expert here exactly about why or what models got which gauges, but you can see here, this was another junkyard that I almost stepped over, but I just happened to, the rest of the gauge cluster was all smashed, but this piece survived. It looks to be in very clean, non-corroded, good condition. But you can see this is at 80 PSI oil pressure. So the thought is, so this one has a cracked housing. So there's a couple parts to this. We're going to take and reuse factory, I guess the stock gauge cluster case, because that one isn't damaged. But then we're basically going to move these three over and then take that one out and replace it with this, or move everything over and then replace it. We'll have to dig in here and figure out how we're going to do that. So here you can see now with the bezels and everything off. Interesting, I didn't really realize that, but it actually says 8-cylinder down here, 8-cylinder down there, which is good because I'm pretty sure for my tach, I don't have to play around with it. I think the Holley tach output will drive this just fine. I think it was when you got into the 6 cylinders that you had to do a little fooling around with wiring and resistors, but not 100%. We'll see. I just think that's an interesting fact. I didn't know that was hiding down there. So this is what these look like. I will probably go out and make sure and inspect some of these circuit boards. They're pretty basic, so I should be able to take a meter. Just make sure some of the capacitor is good and the resistors don't have any shorts in them. And we'll go and do that. And then we will start figuring out how we want to swap all this, do a little bit better of an inspection. So here, the one from the junkyard, you can see, it's just got that cheap 90s plastic. The one that came stock in the car looks like it's showing maybe a little age with a few of these, but I don't know yet if that's casting, or I guess casting, but when they molded the plastic, or if that's actually the start of a stress fracture. But we'll investigate that a little bit further. as we get these apart. So I wanted to go and point something out here. I think this is fascinating that, well, one, I guess it's cool that it says Pontiac Firebird on the back of there, but it's fascinating to me that this style of lamp connector goes as far back as at least 1969. That's what my Buick is, and it has the same style lamp connectors in there, and it just, I guess it cracks me up. I've always heard GM will use anything they can that they have leftovers of that appears to remain true at least up to 1992. Okay, so what you just saw there, just to quickly explain here, I was using a Fluke 87. Fluke makes a nice multimeter. I trust it, obviously, significantly more than your Harbor Freight Special. But basically, I first started with a visual inspection. You can't test capacitors in circuit, but they don't look bulged, they don't look leaking. I mean, they don't see a ton of voltage here. But I went through and just quickly touched the leads to all the resistors, making sure that none of them read a dead short. They all return to resistance. I'm not going to double check any of them. It wasn't jumping around. It settled pretty quickly. So I'm assuming that all those resistors are good. Everything else on the board looks fairly healthy. So we'll keep going here. Okay, so as you can see, we got 140 mile an hour speedometer in and its circuit board. Got that all screwed together. I got to be very careful. I'm normally a tight is tight and too tight is broke. Oops, type of guy. So we're gonna go ahead, repeat that process for the speedometer. We're gonna repeat the process for the tach and the oil gauge, and we'll be back. So there you have it. This is our reassembled gauge cluster. Again, it's not perfect. I'm trying to save some money. One day I can always replace or buff the plastic to take some of the swirl marks out. Both of these bezels were in pretty good shape. So now I got the 140 mile an hour speedometer, the 8,000 RPM tach, and my 80 PSI oil pressure gauge. Now I believe on a LS they normally run at about 80 anyways, so we'll still be maxing that gauge out, but at least it won't be like half inch past 60 PSI like we had on the stock set. So this should work. Might take a little bit of troubleshooting. I do have a couple analog signal generators. I might hook up, take some measurements to the back here and just do some calculations to see what signals needed to drive at certain speeds, and I can kind of use that to correlate it with the Holley system later on. But that's it for this. The next time you see this will probably be in a couple months, hopefully, when we're ready to button up all the wiring inside the car and put things like, well, the gauge cluster back where it belongs. Hey, so hopefully you enjoyed that short video. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of confidence to dig into a gauge cluster on your 3rd gen Firebird if you want to do something similar. The next time we get back together, we will probably be on engine assembly. That's right, it's finally time after almost a year and 3 months. So stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.